The next question from Abdul Rafi, a student from Sydney, Australia, again from the Alida platform. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Due to the pandemic, my local mosque is conducting 2 Friday prayers with 2 different imams. After the first Jummah is done, the next batch of people enter the mosque to pray. The next batch of people enter the mosque to pray the second Jummah. I have heard from some sheikhs that it is not permissible to conduct multiple Friday prayers in one mosque. Can you please verify if this is true? Jazakallah khairan. But Abdul Rafi has asked a question that due to the pandemic in Sydney, in Australia where he lives, they have 2 Jamaats in one mosque. They have 2 Jummah Salahs in one mosque. Is it permissible? Some sheikh says it's not allowed. Under normal circumstances, as far as having a second Jummah in them, as far as having a second Jummah Salah in the same mosque, the ruling is that normally for Jummah, the ruling is that in every locality there should be one big Jummah mosque. It's called a Jami mosque or Jummah mosque. And the reason is that normally a Muslim should pray 5 times in the mosque, the male. It's compulsory. But during Jummah, it should be a bigger congregation. So the normal mosques normally don't have the Salah. They don't have the Zohar Salah or the Jummah Salah during Fridays. But what they do, that everyone gathers in one mosque in a locality, a bigger mosque, so that the gathering is bigger. And for Eid, the gathering is much bigger, they play in open ground. So the logic of a Jummah mosque is a bigger mosque, so that the Muslims of that locality are united. But now, in cities and in places where there is lack of space and it's difficult to have very big mosques, so there are Jummah in not one mosque but many mosques in the locality, and this the scholars have permitted because there may not be enough space of having all in one particular mosque, because you've got a bigger mosque and that mosque will only be used for mainly in Jummah, for the other times it will be less used. So in such situation where there is lack of space and there is not a big mosque and a Jummah is prayed in multiple mosques, that is permitted. But if there is one big mosque and all the Muslims of that area can be accommodated in one mosque, then having a second mosque is not advisable. This is the ruling. Now coming to your question, that under normal circumstances, can we have 2 Jummah in the same mosque? In this, the scholars are divided. The scholars say that in normal circumstances, never in the history of Islam before, at the time of the Prophet or at the time of Sahabas, was there ever 2 Jummahs prayed in the same mosque. Like one Jummah, then after one or the second Jummah, with the new Khatib, with the second Khatib, with the second Imam. It was never done, so it is not permitted. Some scholars are reluctant, okay, because of the lack of space, like how we do permit more than one Jummah mosque in that area, we can have, if it's a very busy city and if the space is less and if you can't find anywhere else. But the first group of scholars says no, if there's no space, you can go out in the open, you can pray in the garden, you can pray in the public area, which is legal to pray, do that. So one group of scholars says no, you cannot have 2 Jummah in the same mosque. Other group of scholars says it is not advisable, but in circumstances where there is lack of space, you can have the difference of opinion. Now coming to your question, in pandemic can we have 2 Jummah Salahs? Now in this pandemic, since the last nearly 2 years or 1 year 10 months, we know that this COVID-19 was first detected in the end of December 2019, exactly 2 years from now, but it spread in different parts of the world, mainly in March 2020, that is 1 year 10 months from now. And we know that things have changed completely since then. And if you had asked me that can you pray Salah in a Jamaat with keeping a difference of 2 meters and 1 meter, then I've given the answer that never ever it happened in the history of Islam before. But yet there are fatwas of scholars that are saying that because of the pandemic, to prevent the infection, you can have a gap of 2 meters or 1 meter between the musalli, and it's permitted. Yet there are some scholars who say, no, it's not permitted. When you're going in the marketplace, etc., fine, you touch your feet. We don't, as long as you're close to each other, touch your feet, the gap should not be there. The difference of opinion is there. Now, similarly, coming to this question, that can you have 2 Jummah in the same mosque? Normally, the more authentic ruling is that you should not have. It is better because it was not there in the past. Even I agree with those scholars who say that even in pandemic, I say that there should not be any gap. Outside you go in the marketplace, you go in the restaurant, there is no distancing. Why is there the distancing in the mosque? If you have distancing everywhere else and also in the mosque, accepted. But outside you go, distancing is not there, only in the mosque. So I agree with the first group of scholars who say that there should not be distancing. Similarly, even in normal circumstances, when there is no pandemic, the first group of scholars say that there cannot be a second Jamaat, a Jummah, second Jummah, Salah in the same mosque. I agree with that first group of scholars. Even if there's lack of space, you can go out in the public, etc. In the public space or a garden. In the pandemic, again, there's difference of opinion that can you have a second Jummah in the pandemic? So the first group of scholars will say that that's not required. You should not have, but yet majority of the scholars, because of the pandemic, because of the infection, to prevent the disease from spreading, they will say that the second Jama, a Friday Jama, in the same mosque is permitted. So the difference of opinion, especially because of the pandemic, there is a lot of things which never happened in the Muslim Ummah, in the history of Islam, and it's happening. So the opinion would be divided. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will see to it that He sees your niyyah. That's important. But personally, if you ask me, I would agree with the first group of scholars that let there be only one Jama in the mosque. And if the lack of space, you have it open in the gardens, in the parks, see to that, take permission from your locality. That is preferable. Hope that answers the question.